Okay,
Ready to go?
yes.
All right. My name is Jimmy Ross. I'm the mayor of the village of Belcarron. On behalf of our council, I wish to acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the unceded territory of the Coast Tsleil peoples. Tsleil-Waututh or Belcarron is home to an ancestral village of the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. We're thankful to conduct their work within their territory, our work within their territory, and I'll call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. And we have first item is item 2.1, regular council meeting, June 5th. We need a motion to, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Wilder and Clark, that motion is that the agenda for the regular council meeting of June 5th, 2023 be approved and circulated. Any discussion? Not seeing any, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye, and I know that it carries in the affirmative. Adoption of the minutes, special council meeting, May 10th, 2023 and May 23, 2023. Moved by Councillor and seconded by Councillor Wilder. When's that one? The minutes from the special council meeting held on May 10th, 2023 and May 23, 2023 be adopted and circulated. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll look to call the question. All those in favor, say aye, and I know that it carries in the affirmative. And I'm going to ask, Paula, to just outline a correction.
Yes, we,
Please.
on the minutes of May 23rd, 2023, the regular council meeting minutes, there is a clerical error on page 3, 5.1. There was a resident asked a question and Pharaoh Cove was referred to as Pharaoh Cove. So it was just a typo. So the minutes are corrected and they'll be entered into the record as corrected.
Ask a quick question about this. Has always on public question period, there is some questions that come in or from the gallery that some of them were to be addressed either via email or on another meeting. So I just want to make sure that everybody got their answers. I think there is.
Yeah, I was emailing with today, so I was answering this question today. Yes, I believe all the questions were answered at the meeting.
Okay, there's one by Ryan Moon here that wasn't answered.
I met with him.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
and then there's one by Jim Chisholm as well. But I think the information about the fires out there now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say for all intents and purposes, it's
Yeah.
answered.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
and if it's not, we can come back to that question.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because sometimes people have the work to send their questions in and come here and,
Yep.
just want to make sure that everybody's getting
I sent a message to Don Babineau today. He asked a question and we said we would get back to him. And I talked to Ryan, so.
Okay,
Thank you.
good, thank you. So we're now on to 3.2 regular council meeting, May 23rd, 2023, moved by Councillor
Clark.
Clark and seconded by Councillor Zicki. That the minutes from the regular council meeting held on May 23, 2023 be adopted as circulated. All those, any discussion on that? Any discussion? Okay, you have to give me the nod. I see some of you looking very pensive. So all those in favor say aye.
Hi.
All right, delegations and presentations, it looks like a no. And number 5.1, I'm going to ask Ken to outline the next report. Ken. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll just share my screen then, if it's all right. Are we got that?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Ken.
So this report is an annual report And it's the Statement of Financial Information for the year 2022. And the acronym for that is SOFI. And so we're required to report pursuant to the Financial Information Act and the related regulation on certain things that are in the SOFI report. And there's 8 items that are required to be in the report. And this report gets filed with the ministry. And then it also gets put on the village's website for public information, so that it is accessible by the public. So if we look at the required schedules of the SOFI report, we can see they're noted in Appendix A. And the first one is just a approval letter that needs to be signed by the CAO and the mayor. The second schedule or section is a management report that gets signed off by the chief administrative officer. The third section is a schedule of guarantee and indemnity agreements, and the Village of Belcarra has none of those, so it is stated so. The next schedule is a schedule of remuneration and expenses. And so you see in this schedule, all of the remuneration expenses of council members and of employees. And you're required to isolate those employees that have earned over 75,000 in remuneration separately. So those are listed separately in this schedule. And then moving on to the next schedule, statement of severance agreements, you're required to indicate any severance agreements. And as indicated here in this section, there was one severance agreement that was equivalent of 1.5 months in 2022. The next required schedule is a schedule of payments to persons or entities. And in this schedule, you have to isolate payments to suppliers over 25,000. And then you have to group the under 25,000. And then you have to provide a list or a dollar value of the grants and contributions as well. So you see this stated in this schedule. The 7th section or schedule is a statement of inactive corporations, and the Village of Belcarra does not have any of those. And it is stated so. The last section is the inclusion of the financial statements for the year 2022. And as you can see, the financial statements that were approved by council after the audit are included. And these have been signed off by the mayor and the CAO. So in order to approve these, there are some motions that are on the table for consideration, which I'm moving up to slowly. So the motions are recommended are that the Village of Belcarra's 2022 Statement of Financial Information Report be approved, and that the mayor and chief administrative officer be authorized to sign off on the applicable statements within the SOFI report.
Okay, I'll look to get a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Clark and Councillor Pelletry, seconded. Well, thanks, Ken, for going through that, and it's now on the table for discussion. Okay, we'll go to you and then to John, or Councillor Zippy, sorry.
So on section 3, there's the payments to persons or entities. I have just a couple of questions about a couple of payments that I would like more information on. So on the second line is Dan Hart Management Inc. What is that for? That's Dennis back. Oh, that's Dennis back. Okay. Now on the fourth line is Jack Sealy Limited. 162,000
Contractor.
contractor.
Yeah.
You moved the motion that night.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I'm always go through the line items and, okay, and that was for the contractor for?
For the paving.
Okay, for,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, all right, and,
Pretty sure you were the pivotal
Yeah.
mover.
yeah. Yeah, okay, no, that's it, that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I just didn't recognize those two
Yeah,
names.
no, that's good, and thank you for asking. Okay,
And I have one.
I've got Councillor Ruzicki and then Councillor Wilder, so go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I was curious on the, on section 4, with the expenses. You know what, for the council specifically, like it's yourself, obviously. And I'm just curious, is that an allocation from, like group things
Through the chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Those are memberships, membership dues for LMLGA and those type of
Okay.
associations that as council members you belong to.
Okay,
So you have a minimal amount on yours because you've been on council for 2
Sure,
months
sure,
during
yeah.
that
You
year.
get a bigger
So,
amount next time.
yeah, next year it'll be a little higher.
okay, I was just curious what
No.
that number came from. And then, I was curious also in the, remuneration, does this include benefits?
Ken, I'm gonna let you.
As you can see here, it says that it includes taxable benefits.
Oh, okay. Okay, great, thank you. And then I had the same question as Carolina on the Jack Q, now we know what that is. But also WSP, was that ward?
No, that's, we've been talking quite a bit on the water.
Oh, the water. Oh,
Right.
right, okay.
That makes sense?
Right, okay.
Okay. Good question to pose though, just so we're all know.
Okay, I think that was all I had.
Okay, thank you for your questions. Councillor Wilder, go ahead, please.
Samurai Express Trucking? The Samurai Express Trucking.
I think if you go to Ken, he'll be able to answer it. I haven't answered it.
Do the chair too.
I'm not quite aware of that. Maybe Connie may be aware of that one.
Stuart.
Paula?
Yeah. Sorry?
Announcer.
You can answer.
What it's related to, yes. Stuart knows as well, through the chair. It's for the salt.
Oh, salt, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's an odd term, the name of the company, but it's for the salt.
I'm good. Councillor Wilder, you're good on that?
I am. I just was thinking in like moving forward in the future, because we do have some other in brackets, like a Metro van, water debt, something, property tax, school tax. So if it was just in bracketed that says salt, then it'd be a little bit more clear.
Is that, in terms of putting this together, is our obligation to put the name of the person or the company? The question you meant, did you pick up the question? Could we put in brackets who they are or what they do?
The
No, just what it's
requirement is the legal entity. If it's a limited company, then the company would show up.
Hang on a sec. So the question is on yours specifically was on,
Could it not have just said salt so we would know right away?
okay, so the question was, I don't know if you heard that, but on the one that delivered salt,
Oh, I
could we
see.
put in brackets salt?
Perhaps what we could do is, through the actual report, put something in there that's more explanatory. As opposed
Okay,
to,
we'll check if you can do it. I mean, I think on some of those we'll know next time because they'll be ingrained. We're gonna use them quite a bit the next year.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Yeah.
And I just have one more question, if I can.
Go ahead, Councillor Clark.
Yeah, what about JW infrastructure plan?
that's the asset management. That was John.
Asset management, okay,
I think you moved that too.
yeah. Okay, perfect.
Okay, good. All right, so we have two motions in front of us and we've had discussion. We have anybody in our viewing gallery tonight that would like to go through and do it?
Jim Chisholm, 4505 Carnaby Road. Two questions on the water, North Vancouver. There appears to be two costs there. One is going to them and one's for water. How much water did we get? And how much, what are the two figures for? One is obviously the water itself. What's the other one for? I think it's 90, I don't have it in front of me. I think it's around 90,000 going directly to North Vancouver. Is that what happened?
Yes.
94,000.
Yeah, 90,000, yeah.
On the third line on section 6.
Yeah, that's a payment for the actual amount of water that the village of Belcarra uses. Metro Vancouver sets the water rates, but we get the water from the North Vancouver, and they charge the rate that's passed on through and set by Metro Vancouver. Also, within that amount is a infrastructure charge per the agreement with
How much
Metro
is that?
Vancouver, where we pay a set amount for their infrastructure.
There's another figure that we're going to North Vancouver, isn't it?
There's two figures and one, he's saying
One is one's for the water and one's for, what is the other?
infrastructure.
And did you hear that question from Jim?
So we got the 94,000, and then the other one that was being referred to?
I don't know, one or two lines down below or something. There's another one for North Vancouver.
Oh, so that's this one here, the water debt payment?
Jim, are you referring to the Metro Vancouver Regional District water debt repayment?
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah, so that's
I know what that is.
the borrowing, right, for
No,
the,
that's the annual thing for the people.
yeah, okay.
Now, how much water did we get, by the way? Do you happen to know that? For that amount of money, for 97,000?
There's a report.
What's that? Yeah, I believe there's a report coming, right?
Yes, you're here.
Okay. We don't have it at our fingertips tonight, but when would we expect that report to come?
Next
Tonight.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So we're way ahead.
So Molly will be in that report. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Thank you for your question. We have two more audience members here. Any questions? Nope. Okay, we're good. All right, we're ready to come back to the table. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. We'll look to call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye, and then note that it carries. All right, so we're now on to, thanks everybody, on to 5.2. Jen.
just going to get there in a minute here.
Yep, that's okay. Slow and steady is good.
Okay. Okay. So in this report, as part of the strategic plan, one of council's goals and priorities was the institution of a finance committee. So we have drafted a terms of reference for a finance standing committee, which we've called it because it will be an ongoing committee of council. And so the terms of reference that have been drafted, I'll just go through in their Appendix A. There is some general wording on the overview of the section of the charter that allows for the establishment of standing committees. And then the next section of the terms of reference are the composition and administration. So all members of council would be members of the committee. The mayor would serve as the chair of the finance standing committee, and the current acting mayor would be serve as the vice chair. A quorum of 50% or 3 of the committee or members of council are required to conduct committee business, and the voting members would be all members of council. The non-voting members of the committee would be the chief administrative officer, the financial consultant, and there would be a recording secretary. And of course, any decisions or recommendations made in the standing committee would be considered by council at regular council meetings. So if we go look at the mandate of the committee would provide a forum for informal discussion of issues related to village's annual budget, long-term financial plans, and other finance matters. The mandate includes, but the key word is not limited to, as well, the annual municipal budget and long-term financial plans, both operating and capital, the annual financial statements and related audit reports, taxation and related distribution of taxes, financial policy reviews, review of reserves and reserve levels and any allocation of surplus funds, reappointment and appointment of external auditors, and review of financial reports or issues as deemed appropriate by the chair of the committee. And these meetings would be held on a quarterly basis unless otherwise directed by the chair. And all the meetings would be open to the public unless a matter pertains to Section 90 of the Community Charter, which are of course, the reasons for having a closed section of a meeting. So there is a recommendation before council that the Finance Standing Committee terms of reference attached as an appendix A to the staff report dated June 5th be approved.
All right, we'll look to get a mover for that, a mover. Councillor Wilder and Councillor Ruzicki. Thank you. And we can open it up for discussion. On the two. Councillor Elwood.
Yeah, through the chair, just refresh my memory if you can, Ken, on the reappointment of the external auditors and the appointment. We have a contract, I think, for a number of years. And so we don't reappoint any, or as a matter of course, do we? I guess I should know the answer to this. Do we reappoint automatically irrespective of a contract we might have for 4 years?
Yeah, so I think the current contract is if I recollect, a 5-year contract, and 1 year has just been gone by. But you would, at the end of that term, choose to reappoint or go out to the marketplace for other audit services. It's a decision of council, and something would come forward to the committee to give the background and make a recommendation in terms of that.
So if I can, I understand that we don't necessarily reappoint every year. We reappoint according to the contract.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Elworthy. Anybody else at the councillors? Not seeing any questions from the front. We'll go to the viewing audience and welcome our viewing member. Any questions? Thoughts? Okay, we'll move back here and not seeing any further discussion. I'll look to call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And it carries. Ken, would you mind are you able to, I don't think you've been asked yet, but next is the drinking water quality annual report, right? So is that the one that is the issue that?
Question.
Yeah, so are you able to stay for this item? Or if you're not the full item, can we go to that first part and do that once it's moved so that we get his perspective on this?
Oh, so to answer the question that was put forward.
Yeah.
Belcura in 2022 used 89,153 cubic meters. Which compared to 2021, the water usage was 77,673 cubic meters, which represents an increase of 11,480.
Okay, Jim, that was your question. Did that answer it for you?
No.
Okay. So at this point, Ken? We don't have any more questions that pertain to Ken? Because if we do, we won't probably get them answered tonight. You have one, Jim, I can see it. Go ahead.
Just to follow up on that one.
Okay.
We happen to know what the meter readings said we used. Comparison?
I don't have that information on me. If he's talking about the meters at Strathcona and Midden, I don't have that.
No, meter readings at the house, the ones you took. I'd like to know how much we're dumping.
Okay, well, let's,
Something we have to get later.
okay, well, hang on a second. We know your question. Let's figure out that part. Can we get that later? And is it easily gained or
No, it's not easily gained. I actually do track every 6 months.
Yeah.
Everybody's water meter because we service the boxes.
Right.
Those are individual meters. And that wouldn't be representative of the full usage of water because as was kind of alluded to, we actually dump a lot of water. And that is not just to maintain the chlorine residuals, that's for maintenance of the system itself. And that's where the majority of the water is actually dumped.
So you can.
I knew you were taking the meter readings, and I just thought that maybe you got them, maybe they're even 6 months or a year old. I'm just saying, compared, we need to know what we are dumping. I know we're dumping, when we flush them and so forth, there's a lot of water goes up. But anyways, you're dumping 20% or 30% or something like this.
Well, I think what you're hearing is that it's not that clean number,
I
right?
realize that, but he does have the number, I think, because you read the meters, the people's meters.
So once again, I do have records of what individual houses use.
Yeah.
That is not representative of the total
Of the total
consumption.
amount. Yeah, so it's not gonna get you the sum you're looking for.
Is it not the total amount of meter readings?
No. It's a total amount of each household, but it's not the total amount of water. So
I mean,
yeah, so I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I think we've had the question, we've had an answer. It's not an easy one to do and we can't get the sum, so we're gonna call it a night on that. And if Stuart, if there's some way going forward in another year that we can do it, you can put a notation and see if that's possible. But it doesn't sound like the sum is gonna be there. Okay? Thank you. Anybody else in the viewing audience?
oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, we've moved on. We'll come back and save that question if you've got a question. All right, go ahead. Anybody else in the audience with a question?
Ian Devlin, 3552 Main Avenue. Are we talking about the water report now? What's on the table?
The drinking water quality annual report.
Okay, you're talking about that, are you?
Yes.
And I would like to acknowledge, this is an ongoing report that we receive.
Yes.
It's very valuable information. But I think behind the scenes, when you start looking at the chlorine levels that we're monitoring, our water operators are doing an exceptional job for us.
Yeah.
And I think that just to acknowledge the fact that they are, and they seem to have control of the system. They can control our dead end lines to 0.2 parts per million is their bottom setting, which is quite exceptional. So I think that, I didn't hear council giving any credit to those guys, but they're the unsung heroes behind this report. So
Yeah.
more
No,
power to them.
yeah, and I appreciate your comments, and I do believe council through our chief administrative officer. We notice that work, and she's the one that they report to, but clearly that's important work that they're doing. And they do it with real skill. I think that's what you're saying, correct?
Excellent, because I mean, it's been, ever since we started, with the no boil water orders, we've had no problems with low chlorine levels. So they know their system, they seem to be able to control it very well and do an exceptional job for us. And thanks to Stuart for putting this report together, because I think it's valuable.
Yeah, and thank you for that positive comment for our staff and particularly the ones out in the field, Stuart. So thank you, Ian. To left, anybody else from the audience?
No.
Okay, not seeing any, Klaus, not seeing from you. So we're ready to come back and we're at Councillor Elwood. You had a question?
Yeah, I just want to comment that I think it's a very, very detailed report and it makes for interesting reading. I had no major questions. One was just a minor one that from my own knowledge and information, and that is the commercial water connection at Belcarra Park. There's a rather minor amount of water, from what I can make up, 3,238 cubic meters, and we've been monitoring it since that. So are we charging that back? And that's likely to grow, as we know, as visitors to the park are likely to grow. So, and we I presume, are charging that back to Metro Vancouver somewhere? And if so, can somebody explain how and where that's happening?
So through you to,
Yeah, through the chair.
Yeah.
And yes, right, just like the rest of all the houses, we monitor biannually how much water is consumed. And we do that monthly for Belcarra Park, just to be able to grab and hold on to the data to utilize for decision-making in the future. Right now, we charge a residential connection fee, same as all the residents within Belcarra.
Sounds like a pretty good deal for Metro Vancouver to me, but thank you for the answer.
when did we enter into that deal? Do you have that? at top?
No, I don't have that information, but as far as I know, it has always been a residential connection fee.
Yeah. I think we're here in 2019, but that's not critical for right here and now. Do you have something?
And has a comment.
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so in council's strategic plan, there's an action item to revisit the charges that Metro Vancouver pays for water more on a usage basis as opposed to a flat rate basis. So it is one of the listed action items that staff will be undertaking.
No, thank you, because it's really clear. You got it. We've spoken about it before. That usage is going to go up and up over the years. So, and you've spoken about it. So, okay, so Ken, thank you on that. Stuart, thank you for, so we're, I don't think we have a mover and a seconder because we moved into it quickly so we could get those questions. I think. That's what I just said. So if someone says, I want to move this, we'll move it. Elworthy, and who seconded it, please?
Elworthy second.
I seconded.
Any summary, please?
Okay, so we did that for a reason. We didn't do a mover, and that's why I said we'd come back for a mover, so we're good to get a mover and a seconder. Okay. Any further questions on this?
Just quick comment. I like for Ian's comments. Yeah, I think we've talked about, you know, how good of a job the operators are doing and you know, given the challenges. So it's really appreciated.
Okay, any other comments from the table? If not, seeing none, I'll look to call the question. All those in favor say aye, and I know that it carries. All right, gonna ask Stuart if you could outline the next report, please.
Thank you. 5.4 is public consultation for the interface wildfire development permit area policy. So staff recommendation that staff be directed to organize an open house with BA Blackwell regarding the Village of Belcarra interface wildfire development permit area policy to provide residents with the opportunity for public consultation, comments, and questions. This work is being conducted as per recommendations in the Belcarra 2021 Wildfire Resiliency Plan. And now we are in the stages of a public consultation, which includes 3 parts to it. The first is residents will be encouraged to review the proposed draft policy, and there will be a link provided on Belcarra's website very shortly, if not now. Second, they'll be able to email submitted comments and questions to belcarra@belcarra.ca. And this should be done hopefully by towards the end of June. And following that, staff will schedule an open house for both the public and representatives of BA Blackwell and associates who are actually conducting the work. So back to the chair, please.
Okay, thank you very much, and we'll get on that report, a mover and a second. Councillor Elworthy and Councillor Clark. Okay, it's appropriately on the table. Thank you, Stuart, for that. Any opening comments?
Yeah, if I can.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. I mean, what was interesting in the report, of course, is that I was a little bit confused by it. Maybe you can help me, Stuart, a little bit through the chair. You know, we can't deal with residential properties on this one. This is, that's what's in the report throughout, that it's all really based on, it seems to be a policy for new structures going forward, the way I read it, right? And so that's the first question. And of course, if that is really ultimately what it's about, new structures going forward, then so that'll be my first question. I'll follow up after that.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that.
Through the chair. And as you'll see, when the information gets submitted to the public, there will actually be two zones within the document. And the one zone will be the Bear Cove area, which will, account for most of the new construction zoning areas. And in addition to that, there will be the main part of Belcarra, which are the existing homes. There will be conditions for renovations, larger type renovations for this area as well. So it does account for both new construction and existing homes that are going to be going through larger renovations.
Yeah, and if I can, thank you.
Yeah, you go ahead.
That's what I suspect, of course, the renovations I would like to mention. It just seems to me that this could easily be misunderstood by a lot of people, that they would think that we're going to have, unless it's very clearly articulated. And this is really about that. It's about, new structure bylaws, new building code bylaws, and of course, renovations, significant renovations, I would presume, and very little to do. And of course, the reason why I think this comes to mind is when I look at the high risk area, and it just happens to be not high risk, but the medium, the orange area, happens to be around right in my backyard. So I can't help but notice and be very aware that, and of course, my own yard itself has got more than its fair share of trees that would probably need to be dealt with, and I would have planned to do that. But that seems like a lot of area. So will we be dealing with that sort of thing, where all the ribbons are and what all fire safe stuff is up at the backyard? Will we be, or is this really just going to be to sit down and talk about future building codes for new structures? And that seemed to me to be what it was about. And I think that's a bit sad if it is.
And through the chair.
Go ahead.
And first of all, I'd like to say just because there, a lot of it pertains to new construction or renovations does not mean that the recommendations shouldn't be taken into consideration for everybody's yards in this area. So that kind of information should be an asset to anybody that wants to maintain their yard in a safe manner. And secondly, when you were referring to the prescription area zoning lots that we have, but that'll be another part to this whole process. And then we'll bring forward a report on that, but it's actually separate from the DPA work that we're doing right now.
Thank you for answering my questions.
And part of that piece is that in terms of basically turning on those pieces about exterior and things like that, and some of the guidelines, this council under the Community Act needs to do that. It just doesn't automatically transfer in. Is that your understanding too?
Yes, I guess if I'm on the same page as what you're referring to is this information is going to be brought forward. There's going to be a consultation process with the public. And so everybody's going to have their input. We're going to be able to formalize something. And then it will be brought basically back to council, and then they can put it into the OCP. They can actually put it into the zoning bylaws and actually put it into effect by council's motions.
So I guess the piece is about the exterior guidelines, because you've talked about this, that for, it goes under the Community Act, like we actually have to turn that on. It just doesn't flow through. So that will be part of the discussion back and forth.
Yes.
And I've noticed some of the municipalities in the region have had interesting discussions about, like the Hardy Board comes up really in a prevalent way as being a good thing. But it's interesting because I believe some of the other communities have looked to do a different piece substituting, but you know, Belcarre will have its own discussion. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
okay, so thank you. Any other? Councillor Clark?
So yeah, glad to see this coming forward. You know, maybe I shouldn't speak too soon because I want to see the policies before I'm saying I'm too happy about it. But yeah, but just technicalities here. I don't want to get into the woods there with the policies or what the policies are going to look like. But I think, you know, first of all, July is a month that a lot of people are away. So I was wondering if there would be an opportunity for people attending via Zoom if they're not in the country or not around. Also, I'd like to know if is this going to be an in-person? Is it going to be just an in-Zoom section? Could we do both? And can we do something, you know, so for people, if it is in person at the Village Hall here and also in Zoom, can we make sure like that people can ask questions during the presentation via Zoom, whoever is attending via Zoom? And then the other thing, I had a question, is staff going to be here helping them? Okay, so CAO and minutes being taken. Is there any of that going on for the open house?
I would say in terms of you posing your question, it goes to staff who will be doing the organizational work, correct?
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So, you know, we will take all of this information into account, but this is working for us with the, you know, people can send in their questions quite easily. So, you know, we'll have a discussion with BA Blackwell about how we're actually going to hold the open house, but I think we have to make it as accessible as we can to people because as you say, not everybody is home, not everybody's available. So, you know, this is working and people have the opportunity to send questions in. And this policy is going to be up on the website for a little while before, probably 10 days at least, before we go to anything else. So that gives people the opportunity to send in written comments as well. And then they can listen to what is going on in the meeting and then maybe have further questions based on the conversation.
Okay, and just to follow up, if I may.
Okay, last question, because we want to move on to our audience to make sure we've got it. Please.
Can we also make sure it's recorded and posted on, so for people that missed can go back and watch? Because I think it would be very valuable if we could do this, what we do to our meetings.
Hello. So through to the mayor, through Councilor Clark, there's a difference between an open house and an actual meeting. An open house in the way that we're looking at having one that's quite informal. So people can still come in and speak. There won't be like a council. You won't be sitting at the table. The people will be looking at, like I've done some of these in Maple Ridge as well. So people will be looking at posters. The consultant might have a presentation. There might be another TV video over here. So, and people can ask questions of that, of the consultant. So that's sort of the way that it might, that's, there probably won't be minutes taken, but Paul and I will talk over and see how we want to actually arrange that open house.
Okay.
There's just a bit of a difference between open house and actually
Council.
Yeah.
a town hall meeting.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think just the two things. I just like to have that recorded so people can go back and watch, because I think it's very valuable to have something like that on the website or on the YouTube, and just make sure that it's accessible via Zoom too, so people can participate.
So I think what you're hearing is that's probably not going to occur, right? Yeah. So I just want you to be conscious that it's not set up to be a recorded meeting. It's set up to, yeah, well, I think you made your point, but I think.
We'll bring it back to you.
Yeah.
On the format of the meeting.
It's not a council meeting where you would record it. So there's going to be lots of chance for people ahead of time, during and after, and it's going to come to council, right? That'll be the critical.
Yeah, I just think it's valuable for people to be able to watch if they miss it. So that's,
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Moving on. Anybody else up here?
Just a
Councillor
quick one.
Rozicki, last question, then we'll go to the audience.
Just a quick one. On the map, the red areas, obviously, I was trying to figure out where they all are. But the one that is at the top, it looks like it's getting towards Cozy Cove, that red spot there. Do we know where that is?
No, because I don't even have it on.
Oh, you
my,
don't,
thing
okay.
here.
Because
But I
there's
can get
two,
back to you.
yeah, there's just two on here that I'm really curious about. It looks like one part is up around, would this be St. Clair Road area?
That would be, yes.
Yeah, okay. Was just curious where the red spots were, that's all.
That's east of St. Clair, and this is south of Cozy, there's Cozy.
Through the chair,
Yeah.
we can see if we can get a bigger
Yeah, yes.
map, like this was just gonna go on,
Sure.
you know, the website, but I can ask them if they can provide us with a map in a larger, so you
Sure.
can kind of see.
Yeah, I was curious because I couldn't imagine any development going on up where this one red dot is, but anyway, so that might be a good thing. Anyway, okay.
Okay, good. We'll go to the audience. Any questions?
Ian Devlin, 3552 Main Avenue. Just a point of clarification on map number 1. There's little green dots which appear to coincide with where we have water tanks or water structures. And the legend in there doesn't indicate what those little green dots are referring to.
Oh, yeah.
And if they are
The tanks.
the tanks or water system, then I would suggest in Fair Cove, they have 2 tanks there in ground, big ones, which are not maintained yet, but they will be, I'm pretty sure. And they also have a structure for their water system, which is not shown on the map. So it's just confusing to me if those little green dots, because then I have other questions of up there by Coon Lane, there's 2 little green. And what are they? We got no tanks up there. So I'm
Okay,
just
so,
a point of clarification.
yeah, no, that's helpful. So we'll go away and get a little tighter refinement on these maps.
Yep, that's
Okay,
Thank you.
makes sense?
Yep.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Tim Chisholm, 4505. So is this group going to be making recommendations to National Building Code?
Through the chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
All recommendations of any modifications of a house will be within the scope of the BC Building Code. There won't be anything that is outside. There won't be anything asked of the residents that will be outside the BC Building Code. In other words, party board is actually an acceptable siding for construction.
And then where is my favorite subject land? Sprinklers. It's not national, isn't it?
Go ahead.
Be part of the discussion.
If you've heard the question, go ahead.
I look forward to the discussion at the open house. And we can go a little bit deeper into all these types of questions and what the community wants for this platform.
Okay. Further, John, thank you. Anybody else, sir? Okay, so returning back to the front and we'll look to any further questions? Seeing none, I'll look to call the questions. All those in favor say aye. Aye, and I note that it carries. And we're on to report from mayor and project lead. So I've got a number there that are under mine, but I'd just like to talk about a couple. The RCMP division. I attended that, as did many mayors, and it was on essentially to celebrate the 125th anniversary. And it was 2 things stood out, that the RCMP at the HR level are really changing things to try and attract people to British Columbia and to set in some provisions that are quite quite modern in terms of, so they will go out and they will indicate to a person, you'd like to come here, and what are the barriers? And so they then go to take them apart. So if you have someone who's got a pension, they'll help to facilitate the transfer. If you have someone that has they're older and they've got a lot of work and they want to come to a specific area, they'll look to get them to that area. So they're doing a lot of things to making it happen. Having said that, the RCMP's got a significant deficit in British Columbia for people. So they're really working hard to do that. But I was impressed with some of the things that happened on that. The Translink Mayor's Council meeting on June 1st, I attended that. And then on June 1st, I attended the Sasamette Volunteer Fire Department Board of Trustees meeting with Councillor Clark and Councillor Wilder. And thought that was a good meeting. And then on June 2nd, I went to a Metro Vancouver board meeting that was a race. They're usually quite long and they were out by like 10:15. So yeah, it was a good piece. So I don't know if we have any councillors that want to report out on any of their activities. Councillor. Okay, put up your hand if you'd like to report out. Please. Yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
just to
Yeah.
comment on, bring up the RCMP. Had a situation last week where there was a dangerous driver on Bedwell Bay Road, had to be going 140K past me while I was out for a run. And so, I mean, I could hear it before I saw it, turned around, came back, and I got a video clip of it, but I couldn't on the video, it went quite fast. I couldn't even see the license plate, but I reported it to 911 and the RCMP follow-up was excellent. And it hasn't always been, I'll just say that. But in this particular case, they actually were able to get the license plate. They put it on this new driver's file and said the next time they get pulled over, which I expect might have been that day, it would come up.
Yeah.
So I was pleased with that.
That's good. And just to add to that, I noted that the RCMP have been doing speed checks in Belcarra. So that's a positive. So returning to the audience, go ahead.
Through the chair, Counselor, do you think that would give you any interest in supporting, say, traffic calming on Bedwell Bay Road?
Well, typically, because I run that road every day, I don't usually have an issue, but on the sunny weekends, when you get some of these crazy people coming in, and sometimes they're annoyed because they missed the cutoff to where they're supposed to go and come flying in. So I've had two situations like that probably in the last 10 years. The first one, the RCMP response wasn't very good, but this time it was exceptional. So things are looking up. And I don't know about the calming. I don't know. That's a loaded question. Yeah, but definitely good that we are getting a good response from the RCMP when we have those situations.
Okay. Concludes. And we're on to number 7, our Chief Administrative Officer's report.
I have a lot to say today. I apologize in advance. So I am very happy to report that we have hired Sophie Gable as the new bylaw enforcement officer and ward attendant. She's familiar with the village as she worked as an assistant caretaker in the Belcarra Regional Park and was a member of SVFD for many years. She's friendly, outgoing, and when you see her out and about in the village, I hope you'll say hello. She's a welcome addition to our Belcarra staff, so we're very happy to have her. My second item is the 2022 annual report is available on the village website and at the village office for public review and comment. The notice of intention regarding the 2022 annual report will be advertised in the Tri-City News as per the community charter and was sent to resident email notification list on Thursday, June 1st. The 2022 annual report will be considered by council at the regular meeting scheduled for June 19th. And I would like to thank Amanda for all her work on it because she did a lot of work and it was very well done. And we are thrilled to report that Belcarra Day is back. Sunday, June 11th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Crab in the Village are co-sponsoring the event, and it'll be a day of fun for all, including barbecue by SVFD, face painting, caricatures, amusement games and kids games, pony rides, a bunny petting zoo, and a reptile zoo. The trackless train will be there. There'll be an art show, candy shop, kids plant a pot station with the Belcarra Garden Club, raffle prizes with proceeds to SVFD. So we hope we'll see you all there. I hope you saw the ad that was in the Barnacle, which is very well done by Wilder's lovely daughter Dinesh did a wonderful poster. So we'd love to see you all there. We've missed it over the years and we're just so happy that's back. Okay, and one more item that's just item about the BC Housing Minister last week announced that the first 10 municipalities that must meet future housing targets, and a government order in council reveals that all 47 municipalities that will likely have to ramp up their housing production include Langford and North Cowichan. Now, the expanded list includes Belcarra, the village of Belcarra, as well as Anmore. And the housing minister has said in the statement that the order in council includes 47 municipalities in areas of the province with greatest housing need and highest projected growth where targets may be set. The first 10 municipalities were already listed. We are now on the list, so we will be bringing back a report to council on what that entails. Okay.
Okay, good. Any questions on any part? Thank you for your reports. Any questions on all the reports?
On that report, that's gonna be brought to the chair. On that report that will be brought on the housing, like what kind of information is staff bringing back to council?
I have to do some investigating through the chair. I have to do some investigating on what's going to be accepted or expected from the municipality if we are chosen, because it's 10 to start. So they've sent out notice to the 10 municipalities. And I think once they report out as well, it'll give a little bit more structure to what's going on and what's expected. And it says that according to the regulations, a progress report can be prepared by either a municipal employee or an external party. So if we need assistance in that, we can reach out for assistance in providing the information they ask for.
So reach out to assistant to the province, right?
We can start there, but
Okay.
I think we may need to work with a consulting company on what needs to be provided.
So, yeah, that's my concern. You see, I'm not gonna say much, but the province, they come up with these new rules and then it's up to the municipalities to come and fund, on what they want to see in our municipalities. So I'm a bit concerned about that. Just leave it at that for now.
So I think right now, it's probably good to have some concern. But what got Belcarra in was an order in council. So they did not need to go back and after the first 10, reopen it again, and reopen it again, and reopen it again. So we're kind of sitting there as a provisional group. So in terms of what they do, if you get on that list, then there's a discussion that, well, I can tell you what some municipalities are doing. They're simply not wanting to discuss, not wanting to do anything, There's others who are looking at this as a real opportunity to meet their goals, to meet their needs, right? So the question of right now, what do we need to do? Because are we under the microscope or not? We've been kind of added on. So I always look at when something like that's happening, you want to look at, is there anything in what could happen to you, because it hasn't happened yet, that might actually help us, that might actually be good for us, right?
I hope
So,
there is.
well, I was looking.
And I hope they help us fund whatever it is that they have planned for us.
Well, so I think the interesting thing is, and I don't want to belabor this, but the municipalities that are saying no, 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 and saying we need some help with infrastructure, a massive amount of money went out to every municipality or regional district in this province saying, here's infrastructure spending, you can spend it on anything you want. And some of those ones, it's almost like that never went out. We got them out, 759,000, that was significant.
Yeah.
So I guess the piece is, I don't think we're in a precarious position right now, but I always think when you're in one, what, can you craft it in a way that would help us? And I think there may be some ways, but I won't know till we all get together and talk on council. Right? And we're not on any list right now.
Yeah.
Does that make some sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. It's just, it seems like a lot to put on municipalities' back. You know, there's a lot of people coming in the country now and not enough housing for everybody. So it's, you know, I guess it's what it is.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions from up front? If not, any questions from the gallery? Oh, go ahead.
In Dublin, 3552 Main Avenue. It seems rather ironic. We've got two pieces of property listed by the OCP committee. One over by Sinclair with 5 acres of property, which is held up from development because of the province. And we also have the piece of property behind us. It's been identified, which again is held up by province returning over to us. So there's two pieces of property that maybe this edict from Victoria would be beneficial for us to get access so that they could be developed.
Yeah, those two pieces of property have been on our overall way before.
Exactly.
And they were all done and zoned and ready to go, the Sinclair one, right?
Oh,
They're ready to go, but
yes.
there are some pieces that are, you know, kind of holding them. So that, I guess the piece is, and the parcel 48, I'm not sure it's the province, but you know, I just think that those are pieces that collectively we may be able to do some things on. And they've been long and, you know, I mean, I think at one point that one on Sinclair is sitting there for one reason. It's just waiting. And then at some point it'll go.
Should have become housing a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, well, sometimes what holds things up is, yeah. Okay, so thank you for that question. Anybody else there? Okay, and then we are on to, you've got the Growing Communities Reserve Fund Establishment Bylaw, and
It's a bylaw to establish a reserve fund to account for the Growing Communities Fund grant money that you spoke about, received from the province of BC, which are used for specific purposes. So it has to be used, the funds have to be used by bylaw, and the bylaw is up for adoption.
okay. So if we can get a mover and a seconder for that adoption, Welder and Zicky, thank you very much. And it's the final one. So any discussion on this? Okay, anybody from the audience who wants to add a contribution on this one? Not seeing any, we'll return to the table, and not seeing any further discussion. I'll look to call the question. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye, and it carries. And then we have correspondence, proclamations, and correspondent items under 9.1 be received. Yeah. Yeah. Clark and Councillor Clark and Councillor take one. Well, I'm gonna call it. Tell you. Okay. Any discussion on that? Go ahead.
I have just a question. So on the UDCM, that's
Just receiving.
Yeah, we're just receiving them for information
Okay.
first. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. And then. Okay, so any discussion on the receipt of that? Okay, we'll look to call the question. All those in favor say aye. And then did you want to, we've got some action items. So did you have a question on one of the action items?
Yes,
Yes, I thought you did.
yeah.
Go ahead, please.
So, so I was just curious about the process around the UBCM, because I see the ask here. You know, in terms of the request to meet with particular representatives. And because I have not done this with this group before, I'm curious. I'm assuming that for those, if you have request a meeting, there's a specific objective, and how do we determine collectively what those objectives for the meeting are?
We get together
Okay,
and we talk about what we're looking to achieve.
right,
And we look at who would be most useful to go meet with.
okay,
And it's a competition. So we may want to meet with the Minister of Municipal Affairs. We may want to meet with the Premier. And so we get together as a group and say, here's what we're going to try and achieve. And then we work through Paula, she sends it in, and then we get notes back saying congratulations.
or not.
Or you're a good solid runner up. And then we often, or not we, but whomever doesn't make it will then meet with staff.
Okay,
Yeah. Makes
yeah, I
sense?
just wondered how the objectives were established for these meetings, but anyway, obviously there's a process, so that's good.
All of us. Go ahead.
I sent out the appointment book, so you could have a look at what ministries are going to be there
Yeah.
and will be available, just for your interest, because I know you haven't been on council before, so it
No,
is quite, you have to get, for the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Premier, your appointments requests have to be in by June 30th.
Mhm.
And then for others, they're later in August, administrative staff or others that, you know, are going to be at UBC, I'm gonna ask if you want to have a meeting, so.
But those are good questions because we need to, like, we don't decide it individually, we decide.
Yeah,
as a
okay.
council.
okay, good,
Okay,
thank you.
and the other part is Hydro's looking to meet with us. And I thought for a second Mayor Latte had a second job, but I realized it's not her in there. But so Hydro is usually eager to meet with us. And then as it gets closer to the place, sometimes they talk to us about doing some things on site in the village. But they tend to be positive, so.
Mhm.
Okay,
It would be a good meeting with Patrick.
yeah, I think.
Talk about the trees
Yeah,
that need some trimming. They've been doing a
Okay.
lot of trimming in the last 2 years, more than I've ever seen since I moved here.
Outage management,
What's that?
outage management.
Yeah. Very good.
so we've got a recommendation there for those that council members email any request to meet with particular representatives to the chief administrative officer, and that will start to give a sense of what we're doing as a group. Okay,
Can I just note?
Yeah, go ahead.
that You get the subjects that you want to discuss and send them in. And then you only get like a 15-minute meeting. And so you have to tell them what you want to talk about so they can gather the information so they can answer your questions. So they're really good meetings because they're ready
Yeah.
for you and with whatever questions that you have, so.
and it's positive, we talked about it before. I mean, Belcarra has often a working council, but when you walk in with one, it's an uphill challenge. And so if we can have, and I know people are making commitments to try and do this, so that's all really helpful. Okay? So we've got that recommendation. Can we have a mover and a seconder for it?
So moved.
Councillor Clark, thank you, and Councillor Wilder, thank you. Oh, sorry, Ricky, sorry. The sun was in my eyes. Okay, any discussion on that? Seeing none, we'll look to call the question. All those in favor say aye. Okay, and then information items, no items, and then new business. So, go ahead.
I actually, I'm just wondering, I know this was brought up before, I think it was, Deborah Struck might have brought it up about the, you know, there's no smoking in the park, but you can still smoke in the village areas and with the wildfire risk. I don't know if there's anything we can do quickly to kind of address that in Belcarra property. But I see the smoke, you know, the cigarette butts lying around and on the side of the road. And I don't know if there's anything we can do quickly, but if there is, we should do it.
Well, we've got staff for Belcare property that can intervene, correct? If they're on our property, which,
Yeah, you have to catch them.
So we don't have a bylaw, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't have, so I think part of the problem is at the park, it'll say, they can't smoke in the park, so they go outside of the park and they smoke in the Belcarra property on our roads or whatever. But just with the wildfire risk right now, it's a concern, so.
yeah, it's a significant
Yeah.
one. So why don't two-step process on that? Like, I think there needs to be, you should probably be in touch with a staff person at Parks to say, look, if what's being suggested is what's happening is people are stepping out of the park to have a smoke, we need to evaluate that. We need your help. And then secondarily, we need something like if people are going on to our roads and our property, there's a ban in place, right?
Okay, I'll bring something back.
Okay, good.
But I was just gonna say one other thing, and that is that, and sometimes it's where there's people who come in to work in the village and then, out by their vehicles or whatever, with these cigarette butts lying around. So it's not just the park.
No.
Anyway, it's a concern.
Yeah.
Can I
No,
just make a quick comment on that?
yeah, go ahead.
I think one thing that Parks needs to do, and when I was on Parks Board, I asked them to do that, and they said they were gonna look into, but never got back to me. But it's important for them to do something for people to put their cigarettes out somewhere. So then you stop, finding the butts everywhere on the road, because Mitten Road gets pretty bad on a sunny day. But if they had something for them to put the cigarettes out right there, then you would be safer.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. So when you're talking with Parks, you
Yeah.
can
They have it on the dock. So, yeah.
crowd
That's
fishermen, it's
juice, yeah.
huge pressure situation.
Catch the crowd.
Okay, good. Thank you for your comments, Councilor Lozicki and Councilor Clark, and public question period. So we have up to 20 minutes. And we have a timer. And first of all, we'd like to work with things that are connected to the meeting, and then they can, when we've exhausted those, we can move to things that are not connected with the meeting. If you have any questions, go ahead, please.
Klaus Beaver, 3720 Marine Avenue. I wanted to ask a question regarding the comment made by Open Council. Would you accept that for this part of the question period, or perhaps the latter part? It doesn't speak to any of the agenda items specifically, but it speaks to a comment made.
My goodness, we may need a mediator from the UN. Well, why don't we do this? I think the piece is like people ask in the second part, things that are not connected to the meeting at all, that did not happen. So if it happened during the meeting, we can do it now, I guess. Yeah.
All right, my question,
We're going to do it at some point is what you're saying, right?
please.
Okay.
Please, thank you. This is a question to all council members. On the final council meeting of November 2022, this council moved and carried a motion to provide traffic calming on Bedwell Bay Road.
Yes.
Now, in light of Councillor Rozicki's comments this evening, I was wondering whether her rather soft comment regarding traffic calming expresses council's point of view in that this is not an important matter, or perhaps gives some support for having this item now delayed more than 6 months. So I just wanted to know how council feels about the issue of traffic calming.
So, does someone want to go first? I don't need to go first, but
I
I can go, but go ahead. So why don't we go, Councillor Elworthy, Councillor Clark, and then Mayor Ross. Go ahead.
Okay, well, Klaus said to answer your question from my perspective, I mean, I think we're all very concerned about traffic calming. I think the question is that the fact that it hasn't moved the initiative that we put forward, which is the pedestrian sign and other work that's going to go on at Kelly Road there, that it hasn't moved fast enough. And I just say I'm assuming that it's going through the grants. There's talk of grants, there's talk of all of that seems to be happening. And I think it's in the work. It may not seem to be happening quick enough. I'm relatively satisfied that the work is being done to get that moving, to get the approval for the grants so as we can get that pedestrian work on that specific issue there. For the broader issue, I don't know. I think that would fall to the strategic plan.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, I remember the motion and I voted in favor. I think it was, we were talking about the pedestrian lights for us to cross, like 2 on Bedwell Bay, and I think that was approved and it's gonna happen. And yeah, so I guess we're waiting on that. I know there was suggestions of 30 kilometers per hour zone on Bedwell Bay. That's not something I'm particularly personally am in favor of, because I think at the end of the day, we'll end up pissing off more people that way than not. But I do think, you know, there's people flying all over the road here some days. And that's a concern for me when I'm driving, that's a concern for me when I'm walking the dogs, that's a concern for me when I see people walking on the side of the road. And so in my head, you know, it's always what I've said here before, I'd like to get people off of Bedwell Bay Road as much as we can and into the inside trails or other roads. And I'm looking forward to see the pedestrian crosswalk. We talked also about the raised crosswalk for pedestrians like they have on East Road. That's something I particularly like a lot. I think it would be something that would be good here, but I also know that a lot of people, I guess, including, you know, the fire department would have concerns about that. But I'm always willing to talk about things that, you know, that will help with that.
Okay, well, I can certainly comment on this. I actually thought, I didn't realize it was November 22nd. I knew it was a meeting in November. And the ICBC report was brought up, and the ICBC had a number of recommendations. And it was, as I understood, served as a foundation for being able to get funding, for being able to get things. And I saw that as something that we were going to do, our staff at that time moving forward, not waiting for a strategic plan that was taking a long time for good reason to put together. But I will say this, that I just think that the piece about getting people off Bedwell Bay Road, I can tell you that people are not off Bedwell Bay Road. I can sit here and point at a couple of people in this room tonight who are on Bedwell Bay Road for a whole lot of times because of where they're geographically located. But I will also say this. The other day on Sunday, I was coming back. I went early for a swim. And I was coming back and I was going up that hill and getting on Bedwell Bay Road. And I'll tell you that we came within an inch of someone being seriously injured. And this is what happens. Like, people are counting on that crosswalk. So a guy comes up on his bike, safely crosses from where you're coming up Kelly, crosses to the other side, and his, I guess, partner or friend or whatever is on a bike, and she looks at the crosswalk and goes right through the crosswalk, and there's a guy in a black Mercedes convertible that's about to go too. And I just reached out and went like this, right? And I didn't know what he was going to say, but he slammed on the brake. She went with the idea it was a crosswalk. And she came within a whisper of being seriously injured or dying. Like, I think that when we say get people off Bedwell Bay Road, go for a walk on a hot summer day. How many people are on Bedwell Bay Road? They're not gravitating down to Marine. They may come up off Marine, but I I just think that, and I don't know all the ins and outs, but those flashing crosswalks are critical. And they like, I just think, and I'm not gonna say about anybody else, but I felt when I got home that day, it would have been my greatest failure as being on this council. Like I just understand why we're not moving it and we're not doing it. And that's not going and doing everything tomorrow, but getting that flashing crosswalk, getting that stuff and keep people safe. This young woman, she was in mid-20s, was ready to go and everybody stopped, slammed on their brakes, but she was moving and she was just trusting that sidewalk. And she was trusting me and others. So anyways, those are my comments and I think we need to do better. So, but anybody else with comments or from council? Go ahead if you'd
Just
like.
one.
Yeah.
The other place where I think we could use that kind of a crosswalk is right where Bedwell Bay turns the corner before Midden. Because it's 30 kilometers and
Yeah.
people come flying down at the 50 or usually going 20 over that, whip around that corner and nobody slows to 30. So we could use it there too.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Councilor Ruzicki. So I actually you started with a question. So I'll come back to you and then I'll go to Jim because he's got it. So Klaus will go and then are you on this one, Jim?
Yeah, quick one.
Okay, then you go ahead and we'll go back to Klaus.
But be cautious.
Yeah.
You mentioned about people going out to these things, because I've come up upon, I'm sure everybody in this room has, you come across these flashing lights and people punch them, but they're on the road 10 feet in 1 second after they punch the button.
Yeah.
And it's happened to me many times that I'm right on top of them when they push the button, they keep coming.
Yeah.
So they think that's a security blanket, but it is not.
Yeah.
I have another question when we get through this one.
Okay, and I have a very quick comment on that one. You and I have spoken about that before and with other councillors, like in Port Moody, they had one where boom, you were gone and people
We're
are.
all like that.
Well, no, I think they've got delay on them now.
Well, I haven't seen same, so that's, but maybe you're right.
Yeah, and I'll be open, but I think in some places they've got some delay. Okay, now you said you want to come back after Klaus, is that what you're saying? Yes? Okay. Klaus.
Klaus Beaver, 3720 Marine Avenue.
Okay.
Notwithstanding what Jim said, and I appreciate your comment, Jim, but doing nothing is not the answer. Although none of these systems are perfect in traffic calming, they all can be overridden and people could still get hurt. But doing nothing is not an option here. And I would like council to review, if they have the time, to review how they ended up with the motion that was finally supported. The original motion was made on the recommendation from your public works officer, and it was clear in that presentation that the money had already been considered, at least as to what it was. And when the motion was made, it was not made that it would require funding ahead, that it didn't have to wait for someone to report on how much it would cost. So please review that motion and how it was completed. It allowed for the flashing beacons to be put in place and the funding would perhaps have to be found thereafter.
Okay. Thank you, Klaus.
On that, I have a question, I guess it would be to Stuart, to the church Stuart. When are these gonna be installed? You know, the beacons?
Through the chair. And yes, to clarify, on the funding, the funding has been approved now, just recently, as I believe I mentioned in one meeting, and that is being ordered. Also, painting of that crosswalk is already ordered and on deck. The line painting company does it towards their schedule, should be in August.
Nice. That's good.
Okay,
Just to add on to that,
Yep.
are you considering speed signs at the same time in some locations? Because if you're coming up to McKelly and somebody says, well, I'm doing 50, and you, oh my, I'm in a 50 zone and down the street here, I'm gonna be right on a crosswalk. I don't know, but I'm seeing them, they put a new one in Port Moody lately, and a few of them.
Yeah.
And they did catch your attention.
Yeah.
There's one in Port Moody, and I make sure, oh, I've gotta be doing 52 here, I'll never.
Kind of checks with
Sign.
Yeah.
But it's one thing to talk about.
So why don't we go through to Stuart and see in terms of, is that part of the package either that we're ordering or we could get, which I think is that flashing thing that solar in some places, right? And tells you, like the one in Port Moody, when you're coming back in front of that old store, it's just like everybody starts to slow down so they don't light up the sign.
That's right.
Yes, Your Worship, that is the product that we're focusing in on for that crosswalk there.
Okay.
We don't have anything else on order in terms of, those speed signs that will kind of dictate or cue in on how fast you're going and say there's nothing like that on order. However, I have reached out to ISL for additional recommendations for painting and signage for that specific area for their comments to and how we can add to that location.
Okay. Because I think, so what's being contemplated is, just to clarify, that we've got the signs that were being spoken about that flash and tell you a speed piece.
Yes,
That's a different.
the flashing beacons.
What's that?
The flashing beacons.
Yeah.
That you press the button and then it flashes as.
Yeah. So we've got that.
That is on the go. Yes.
Yeah, and what's the other one that looks like we're getting or looking to get?
What I believe residents were asking about were speed signage.
Yeah.
That I haven't asked about. However, I have reached out to ISL for providing some comments on additional signage or paintings to support that flashing beacon.
So and TransLink funds some of this, right? Correct?
Yes, Mayor Ross, it will be 70% funded for the flashing beacons and the crosswalk and everything on MRN Road has a certain percentage of funding attached to it.
Yeah, probably 75, right? That's what you're thinking? Okay. All right. Okay, good.
Would be great to have one of those. Try to have,
Yeah.
like reading, it works well.
Okay. Jim, and then, okay, are you on the same subject, Klaus?
No, I just wanted to say thank you.
Okay. Oh,
Least
okay.
than ever.
Okay,
For everybody's knowledge, it appears 2 new ones have been put up by the school in Anmore on that road.
Yes.
These speed signs and whatever by
Yeah.
crosswalk.
yeah,
But the other thing I want to make comment on, and with regards to the housing and so forth, we have probably 25 locations, surplus properties that we could consider rezoning and so forth at a later date too. Don't forget in the form of road ends and things like this. So that may come up when you're looking for locations for real estate.
okay, and sorry, when you said 25 surplus,
Road ends and so forth, there's a variety of those that could be turned into building lots. Therefore, they'll give you access to more real estate locations.
okay. I mean, yeah, we can take a look at it. I think some of them, if you're referring to some that were part of that last kind of endeavor, quite a few of those have a whole range of things, right? That preclude that, but we'll certainly listen to your comment on that. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else in the audience with anything else? Okay, how are we doing on time?
About a minute.
We got a minute? What are we gonna do? Can I ask you a question? No, go ahead, go ahead. You got a minute.
One thing I suggest, no speed bumps.
Yeah, I know, you don't like it.
Well, no, that fire department hate them.
My comment to that is, that's a comment out of turn. If you believe that the fire department hates them, you should speak to Jay Sharp. You should speak to municipalities that have those speed bumps and just confine those comments to when we have council public meetings.
There are other meetings, though.
No, Jim, I think you said that before, but that's not on.
So
Another message.
Jay Sharp can speak for himself.
Yeah.
So I can add something just to close us. I mean, I don't believe that Jay Sharp has that view. If he does, he has no influence in Anmar.
Yes.
Right, and I think Jay Sharp has influence in Anmar and in Belcarra. So, but I think I would say that final piece, come to our trustees meeting and pose that question. Because I just don't know, like Jay seems, what's the correct way to say it? I don't think he would shy away, and they are all over Anmar.
Yeah.
There are other methods, highways, where they do slow people down with not bumps. Corrugation is very.
Okay, that's different from Jay not doing it. So, okay, but thank you to everybody in the audience, and you left us with like a minute to go excess time. We'll be able to get home. So at this point, anybody up front like to move adjournment?
So moved.
Clark and Wilder and all those in favor say aye, and thank you to everybody. And I know that it's 8:30. Well done.